Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Post-fight review, Frazer Clarke and Dave Allen. Bit of a controversial sixth round in this fight, and after that round, Dave Allen retires in the corner. So a bit of a strange old fight and a strange old ending. And again, you're left with the question of how good is Frazer Clarke, and we'll come to that. But talking about the action proper, and it seems to be low blow central at the moment in the heavyweight division. Couple of fights a week ago that were controversial for low blows. This one too. 2 points taken from Frazer Clarke in the sixth and final round. Remember, this was originally scheduled for 10, but Dave Allen at the end of the round retired, and we'll come to that in a moment. But these low blows, they were on the belt line. They were hitting the protector, and the referee deemed them low blows. A round or so before, there was actually one or two shots Allen was complaining about, and with his experience, he was sort of acting up a little bit, complaining to the referee. And these shots in the sixth round, pretty in close succession, 2 points taken, and there was another low blow pretty shortly afterwards. And you had a situation, Clarke could have been at risk of getting disqualified for continually straying low in the referee's eyes. But he didn't have another point taken for that third consecutive low blow in the sixth round. But he was sort of on thin ice by that stage. But you did have a situation through this fight that Clarke was getting the better of the action in general. Dave Allen had a few moments, looping right hands landing, but there just wasn't enough volume from Allen, not enough success. There was the jab sometimes was finding the mark, but not a whole lot else. Clarke was basically getting the best of the action overall. When he threw the jab early on, it was landing. He had different shots to the body that were, legal and landing earlier on as well. And the uppercut was also a feature of the fight. Sixth round, obviously, with that action, and then after it, you have Dave Allen sort of sauntering back to the corner. He's not looking too happy, gesturing to the left side of his face, and then shortly thereafter, the referee waves it off. So Frazer Clarke advances to 8-0. I mean, I did have a question in my mind. Was that a situation that Dave Allen was actually starting to get busted up and broken down and just decided, no, I don't want this anymore? I think it was a case that Clarke was starting to get to him a little bit more with some of his power shots. There was a big right hand that landed in that sixth round after all the low blow controversy. And Allen was starting to look maybe a little bit worse for wear. I think over the course of a number of rounds, Clarke, he's got heavy hands. He's not a concussive puncher, but, Allen was feeling the weight of the punches that were landing. And I think it was having an impact and slowly breaking him down. After the fight, you had Frazer Clarke. We'll come to his comments because it was quite a strange post-fight interview as well. Having a pop at Dennis Hobson, Allen's promoter, Clarke actually made a reference to Dennis Hobson and had he robbed Dave Allen his entire career. So it kind of come out of nowhere, and that was in response to Dennis Hobson calling for a rematch. As we've seen in the past week or so since the Daniel Dubois and Usyk fight, there has been calls for, should Daniel Dubois get another crack at the title because of the controversy there. Obviously Hobson thinking, okay, maybe I should jump on and call for that there. I don't think there's any need for a rematch, but, maybe Clarke went a little bit far. But he did go on to say, despite, sort of apologizing for the low blows and saying they were never intentional, he thought that Allen, as an experienced pro in his corner, were trying to manipulate the referee. So very strong words indeed. And Allen certainly was acting up and making his feelings about the shots known. There probably was one or two shots in the course of the fight that maybe Allen reacted to that were legal, but there was a lot that was certainly hitting the protector, and that is not allowed. So they were called, and obviously the referee acted upon it. But we have a situation again. Frazer Clarke says he needs to go back to the gym, needs to work on things and improve. But sort of again, just, decent performance, solid without being spectacular. You have to ask yourself, how far is Frazer Clarke going? How good is Frazer Clarke? Where is his level? I was thinking after the fight, I remember that fight from Dave Allen with Tony Yoka about 4 or 5 years ago, and Tony Yoka at that point was at a relatively similar stage. Was it even a little bit earlier, a couple of fights less? He just put an absolute beating on Dave Allen over the course of 10 rounds. And there were moments in this where Allen was competitive. where he's pushing Clarke back. I mean, I would say that Clarke won all the rounds basically, but it wasn't by domination or anything like that. It was a little bit more than his opponent was doing for the most part. Solid without being spectacular. I mean, do we need to give him a nickname, the Accountant or something like that, because he sort of does the business, no fuss, but there's no real flair. You're bordering that territory where people are just like, how good are you? How far are you going? Can we actually get behind you? Because we're not quite sure really how good you are. And I think a lot of people are feeling like that with Clarke. A lot of people are writing him off as sort of British level, somewhere there or thereabouts, based on what they've seen. And is he actually improving? I'm not so sure based on what we've seen. It sort of seems to be mostly the same Frazer Clarke each time we see him, or we keep hearing him talk about he will be better, he needs to improve. But are we seeing the improvement? I mean, Dave Allen is somewhat limited offensively, but he's a durable guy and he can generally give you some rounds. But I think we've seen a lot of guys in the ring with him who have basically peppered Allen and put on much better performances than Clarke. So the question is, what next? Who next? He was asked about the sort of different trio or quartet of different British heavyweights. Was it David Adelaide, Jamie TKV, Fabio Wardley, and Solomon Dakers? So he didn't call out anyone or anything like that. He just sort of said he'll leave it up to whatever's going to happen. But if you're a boxer, you've invested a decent chunk of money into this guy that you expected to maybe be a little bit further along. Remembering, got that bronze medal, there was some hope and expectation he'd carry over to the pros. And, has he really built a fan base? Is he really capturing the attention? Is he really projected to go that far? I mean, sort of, maybe Anthony Joshua in terms of the popularity is a bit of an outlier. But you had a case of Joe Joyce. In his earlier fights, he was really putting it on guys and building a bit of a reputation, being tough, strong, durable, all that sort of stuff. Did Frazer Clarke leave it too late in the amateurs? Is the talent that he does have going to carry over to be a pro that he can sort of get towards world level? Certainly a question mark there right now. As for Dave Allen, we'll have to see what happens. He's been talking about a comeback for a while. Different attempts to have different fights have fallen over. I mean, he was meant to have been putting in quite a bit of an effort for this fight. He seemed in okay shape. I mean, for Dave Allen, we've seen much worse. But I kind of think that Boxer probably overpaid him to face Frazer Clarke to get the name on the resume, try to get a little bit of shine off Allen's name, but I don't think it carries the same sort of weight that it once did. So Allen, his sort of comeback has been stalled quite badly in the last year or two, and Frazer Clarke really, it's a bit of a failure to launch situation. Solid without being spectacular. The Accountant has been in session and no one seems to be impressed. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.